This episode is sponsored by Brewers Decorators Centres in support of raising mental health awareness in the UK construction industry. Brewers Decorators Centres have over 200 stores nationwide and offer free next-day delivery on all the best brands such as Albany, Benjamin Moore, Dulux, Graco, Mercer, Johnson's, Zinza and Thermogard. And the Talking Tradesman podcast would like to offer our sincere thanks for offering your support in continuing to grow the podcast and reach as many people as possible. Thank you. On to the episode. Hello and welcome to the Talking Tradesman. Today we have Bryn Williams from BSW Electrical. I've got that right, mate, haven't I?
Yeah, you got that right, yeah.
Let's talk, Bryn. How you doing?
I'm very well, mate. How are you?
I'm not too bad, mate. Not
Good.
too bad. Yeah, it's a good day today. We're recording in the daytime, so that's always good. Less of a rush.
Yeah.
But Sparky.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell me about that.
Ooh, been a Sparky now for the last 17 years. Started when I was in the army. Did 5 years in the army, then come out. Got various full-time jobs at the time before going for self-employed a few years ago. And then just been going from strength to strength, really.
I'm racking my brains, mate. I think you're the first. I'm sorry if anyone else has been on who's a Sparks who I'm forgetting, but I think you're the first Sparky on the podcast.
Yeah, I believe so.
There you go. You've done your research. Congratulations, mate. You will forever hold that number one spot.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Right, a little bit of background information on Bryn here. I actually know Bryn vaguely, but I've known Bryn from a very young age. When Bryn reached out to come on the podcast and sort of connected the dots. So Bryn is from my hometown of Redditch, and my first memory of Bryn was when I used to play football back in the good old days before social media, and you used to be able to locate your friends by where all the bikes were because nobody had mobile phones.
Yeah, exactly.
We used to finish school and go down to the local school playing field to play football. And Bryn, who... You were a fair bit younger, weren't you?
Yeah, you're 5 years older, so yeah, about 5 years difference.
Mate, as a kid, that's a big difference as well.
Yeah.
Bryn used to come over to me and my mates, it'd be like 10, 15 of us playing football until it went dark and we had to go home for our dinner. But Bryn would come over on his own and ask if he could play football with us.
Yeah, just because at that age, usually just used to muck around on the streets, like you're the street where your house was normally.
Yeah.
Didn't have like loads of friends. There wasn't lots of kids on the street growing up, so obviously I had to go further afield. And then,
do you know what though, mate? That must have took some balls as a kid of that age to come up to a group of like 10, 15 lads who were clearly a lot older than you and be like, "Can I play?"
Yeah, I think again it's just I've always had that little bit of confidence when approaching people. I think being an only child kind of makes you develop more social skills and you have to be a bit more sociable. I think it's easy when people have like siblings, maybe it's easier to, I don't know, would that be right to say?
To stick to your own sort of bubble if you've got brothers and sisters.
Not necessarily stick to your own sort of bubbles, but you've always got that more of a social aspect after school or in the house or something. Whereas with me being an only child, I didn't really have that as such. So like I had to like go out and make friends or, just.
It's a big thing though, mate. Like I think thinking back to myself at that age, I don't think I'd have done that.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd have approached a group of like older lads and be like, "Can I get involved?" So yeah.
I don't know. I think I always had that don't give a fuck attitude. So just
yeah, mate. Well, I think that's it. It says something about your character, doesn't it? Really. So yeah, one of the reasons Bryn reached out to me to come and talk on the podcast was obviously he's got his own story, which we will cross after this little segment, what we're going to talk about. But Bryn has got a hell of a challenge ahead of him a week after I do mine. You're probably the best person to explain that one, mate. What are you doing?
So a week after you climb Ben Nevis, we're doing the Three Peaks Challenge, which is Ben Nevis, Scaffold Pike and Snowdon in 24 hours. And there's 14 of us, I believe, doing it now. And it's for mine charity. And we think we've raised about £18,500 now. It's just gone up.
That is fucking incredible. Yeah. 18,500 grand.
18,500 grand now, roughly. And there's still a few thousand to come in from other people and that from other companies. So
first of all, mate, well done.
Thank you.
It's an incredible thing that you're doing. It's an incredible cause. But to touch on the actual day, what it involves, So that's 24 hours to climb the 3 biggest peaks in the United Kingdom, isn't it?
Yeah, that's correct.
And that's including travel.
Yeah, so I think between Ben Nevis and Scafell Pike, it's about a 5 or 6 hour drive, and then between Scafell and Snowdon, it's about a 4 or 5 hour drive. So it's literally down, up the mountain, back down on the minibus, and you're driving straight away.
I must admit, when I heard about the 3 Peaks Challenge, I assumed, without looking into it properly, that it was just the climb. So it was 24 hours to do the climb, assuming that you're going to be slowing down as you come to like the 3rd climb. But it's not, is it? That includes the driving. So you're going right up to starting at Ben Nevis.
Yeah, so we're setting off on the Thursday, stopping in Scotland overnight on the Thursday. So we just got an easier day of travelling on the Friday, really, when we start the challenge. So,
mate, I might still be up there.
Yeah, maybe. It's like The Shining.
I'll still be trying to climb up at the time. You'll be loping past me, but I'm still going.
No, I think you'll smash it. To be fair, you finding your training going well?
What little training I've done, mate. I mean, we had this conversation just pre-record. So I went up the Malverns last weekend. Now, the Malvern Hills, it contains for anyone who doesn't know, contains the highest point in Worcestershire.
I think
so. It's the Worcestershire Beacon. The Worcestershire Beacon is around about 450 metres. Ben Nevis, I think, is 1,350 metres.
Yeah, I think something
approximately. Yeah. I might be butchering that by a metre or two. But in honesty, mate, it was tough to do tough to do 450. So don't get me wrong, mate. I know I will make it. I know I'll make it. Weather provided, because we have actually been warned that the weather conditions can cancel the climb.
Yeah, they can just change like that on the day as well.
Yeah, and we've got professional guides taking us up. So we are a little bit at the mercy of what they decide to do.
We're not.
That's what's amazing, man. Like you lads are doing that. So again, just to highlight this, because I dropped this stat out before and I don't think people believe it, but Ben Nevis is the 2nd most dangerous natural attraction on Earth.
It's nuts when you think about it, isn't it?
Of all the things you can do, for context, I really do believe it's because a lot of amateur people like me try and climb it. You know what I mean? Like, quite clearly, climbing Everest or Kilimanjaro or whatever the big known ones are far more dangerous.
I think it's all right. No, I wouldn't say it's necessarily like a novice like yourself, because obviously you're going up with guides. I think it's the people who don't have the guides and don't have correct equipment, and they're going up in a pair of Nike Air Max.
Like
We've all got our walking boots, actually. Everyone's got their poles and their camelbacks and that, so everyone's pretty much prepared.
I must admit, mate, when I got the poles the other week, and I tried taking them up Malvern, but I'd got the dog as well, so I got like one pole and a dog, and I just felt like I was being like twisted each way, so I didn't quite get the full effects of the poles, but I have got the poles because I've been told that that's very handy for the descent more than the ascent.
Yeah, I think it's just more to do with like your footing and that, really.
Pressure on the knees is what I've been told. Anything that can take pressure off my knees, mate, I'm all over that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I will put the details of what you guys raising money on. Is it GoFundMe or?
Yeah, it's GoFundMe. The link is, I'll send you the link later on.
I'll put the details of the link in the episode description. So if you've just had a listen to that, Bryn and 14 other lads are doing the 3 Peaks Challenge, which is climbing all 3 peaks in 24 hours, raising money for Mine charity. And I'll put all the link to the Just Giving page in the audio description below this episode. The only thing we haven't mentioned, mate, is the reason why you lads are doing that climb.
Yeah, so we're doing it for Mine charity because we've recently lost a couple of our friends over the last couple of years, Joe and Kurt, as well as there been other people, lads and that from Redditch and girls as well. Actually, I think I can count about 7 or 8 people I know who've committed suicide. So it's a big charity, but it's close to a lot of us, really, and that. So yeah.
Yeah, mate, it's a really good cause. The 2 lads in particular that you're doing this climb for, Kurt and Joe, are lads that I actually knew personally myself from being from the town. Knew them for years, so it's tragic circumstances. And I remember when you reached out to me about coming on the podcast, one of the things you said was that you thought you could remember at least 5 people in the last 5 years.
Yeah, I thought about it yesterday, and there's probably about 7 or 8 people I can probably count all together. Like,
That's horrific.
mm,
And again, to bring home the relevance to the podcast, Kurt and Joe were both in the trades.
yeah, Joe was a scaffolder and Kurt was a plasterer.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's horrific, mate. And all credit to you lot for doing what you can do in their memory. It's an amazing cause. So if anyone listening to this wants to get any more info on it, there'll be more info on the Just Giving page, won't there?
yeah. There's on the GoFundMe page or Just Giving. I can't remember which one it is. There's a link. There's a bio. There's a description of why. And
so go check that out if you've got anything that you can spare to donate and help these lads. I mean, they've already raised an incredible amount of money. But it's 3 weeks. It's got to be 3 weeks. The only reason I know it's 3 weeks for you is because it's 2 weeks for me.
Yeah, 3 weeks now.
Yeah.
I think we leave on the 4th, and then we'll be back on the 7th.
I think we're doing similar, actually, mate. If you're travelling up on the Thursday, we're travelling up on... So I'm climbing Ben Nevis exactly 2 weeks today.
Oh, on the actual Friday? Yeah, so we're 3 weeks today, then we are.
There we go.
Yeah. Should be good.
I don't know about good, mate. It'll be something.
Do you know there's a pub at the top of Ben Nevis?
I've seen that.
Yeah, you can have a beer.
Fucking brilliant, mate. That is all the inspiration that I need. I can't even begin to fathom the logistics of doing that.
I think it's just a small microbrewery, that's all it is.
But who's took the stuff to do that? I saw a picture on... Is it Lad Bible or
like the stone hut?
Yeah. And it is just like a shale and stone hut that's been built up there.
Yeah.
I'm hoping it's open when I turn up there, mate.
Well, fingers crossed. Hopefully it is. Like, and that. Hopefully, wait and
that's
see.
it, mate. If I start to struggle, I've just got to envisage that. I mean, actually, when you start to think about that, is it really a good idea to be serving people alcohol at the top of a mountain?
Probably not, no. But if you're only maybe doing one mountain, it's okay. I think if you're going to do another 2 afterwards, probably cut the beers right out.
I remember you saying, though, before, mate, that you've got lads that are planning on cracking a can at the top.
They do already. Every time we finish a mountain, now they get to the top and some of them crack a can of Stella. So, you know.
I guess, mate, is it just one can?
Just the one can. I think, wow, I only see one can. That's it. There's plenty more on the minibus afterwards.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, to be honest, mate, you're in good shape. You're a fit lad anyway. And like you said, you've come out of the army. I remember you saying before that you used to run up these things as well.
Yeah. Used to know the Brecon Beacons and Snowdown at the back of the hand, really. So, yeah, we used to go up and down the mountains all the time.
So you're like dead confident?
Yeah, I love it. I do. A bit of a mountain goat. Don't mind it, really.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It is cool, mate. I've done Snowdown a couple of times and always felt that... I did it in 2 polar opposites, actually. The first time I did it, you couldn't see a thing. It was like proper cloud cover. But with that, I don't know, there was something really cool about it because you were in the clouds and the clouds were like blowing across the path and dropping down the descents and stuff like that. And it was like magnificent to see. And the second time I did it, it was completely clear.
Yeah.
And you could see for miles. It's stunning. There's like a serenity about being on a mountain.
Yeah, I think it is quite like... It's hard when I think when you're walking on the flats, it's okay. And then once you're on the ascents, it's quite hard. And then once you get to the top of an ascent or you get to the top of the mountain, like you said, it is quite fulfilling. And then you start looking around. It is once you see the world as it is like, and that is quite beautiful.
I think one of the beauties of it for me is actually the fact that it's like health and safety free.
Yeah.
I know that sounds mad, but there's no barriers. There's no like signs up saying don't stand here. It's just kind of common sense of, well, if you do go that way, you're going to die.
Yeah, so, pretty much.
There's a beauty to that, though. Like in today's day and age where everything is like roped off, restricted, there's none of that on the mountains.
No, it's just raw, isn't it, really?
Yeah, so. I think that's, perfect description, mate. Raw, that's exactly what it is. But there's something that resonates, I think, in that. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. As I say, a little bit nervous, but with what you lads are doing. I mean, have you got like a set time schedule that you've got to stick to complete it?
So every time we've done a mountain at the moment, we're timing ourselves as we get to the top and back down, so we can give ourselves like a rough average time for each mountain. But but I think we're aiming to do each mountain in about 4 or 5 hours. 5 hours max for each mountain. But
Up and down.
Up and down. But some of them we've been doing, like Snowdon, we did it in 3.5 hours, I think it was, or 3:45, something like that. Up and down. And then some of the lads did Scaffold the other day. They did it in like 3:15 or.
And there's a lot of different routes up these mountains as well. Do you pick out which one you're doing?
So I don't know what the paths are for Nevis and Scaffold Pike. I'll leave the lads to sort them ones out. I think Snowdon we're going up the Miners and then coming down Llanberis because it's just the easiest routes up and down. Really,
the Miners is the one that you walk around to the lakes, isn't it? And
yeah.
Got the big
that one bad ascent, so to speak, and then obviously Llanberis is just a nice track all the way, that nice slope all the way down. Then a bit easier.
I've done the Miners back. I did last time I went there. We did the Pig up, Miners back, but that was quite tough.
Yeah,
the Pig had got. I think the thing that threw me out. We're talking about mountains here, but it's an interesting subject with what I've got coming up. The thing that threw me off is a little bit of what you said about it being raw, but you get so used to in modern day life, like standard sized steps.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And then you go up for the like people watching this, and some of the steps on Snowdon are like, I mean, you'll be all right.
You have to scramble, aren't you? Over a lot of things.
Some of them are really big, and I think you end up engaging muscles that you've
never touched before.
That's it. You just don't normally use. I think you've got a bit of an advantage though, mate. At 6'8", you're
quite tall. It takes a lot to get going though. It's I burn so much energy daily. Like,
you got lots to pull around with you.
Yeah, I burn like 4,000 calories a day on average. It's ridiculous. Like
to me, I'm listening to that and just thinking that it means you get to eat loads.
Yeah, but then it's hard to eat loads as well.
Yeah, mate. I wish I had that problem, Bryn. To be honest with you, I've got the opposite issue going on myself. So yeah. Obviously, that's the challenge that Bryn and those lads have got going on. It somewhat eclipses the climb of Ben Nevis that I've got going. And what I'll say at this point, mate, it's good luck.
Thank you very much.
I think it's fucking brilliant that you lads are doing that. I know a lot of the lads that are doing it as well. And the fact that one of the things that we touched on before, actually, and that I don't want to skip over, is how positive and beneficial it is to get groups of lads like you lot out doing these things, like walking, in terms of mental health.
Yeah, the whole walking and talking movement, like at the moment, for our group of lads, it's been brilliant. You know, just to have a chat individually, and when with some of the lads as a group as we're going up and down, how much like the health benefits they've seen from it, and and that some of the lads have lost like a couple of stone or a stone here and there. And it's just good to get out and start talking to each other, really. We do remember the lads as we're walking up, like Kurt and Joe, and we say, how much they would have loved doing it, and, having them on the day, if they could have been there on the challenge day with us as well, they will be with us when we're going up and down each mountain. Yeah.
I think what you're doing, though, is also brilliant in terms of, let's be honest here, like men are quite stereotypical. We don't like talking about our feelings, and grief's an unpredictable beast because it comes at you when you're least expecting it. And again, with men, we don't like to talk about bereavement. We don't like to talk about grief. And I think possibly you lads doing that kind of walk and doing all the training for it in memory of your friends actually gives a really good opportunity for people to be able to start to voice their feelings.
Yeah, hopefully it gives people like a smaller platform, so to speak, or they start deciding they want to go out walking and talking, so to speak, with their own friendship groups, and hopefully more comes from it with people going out. I look on social media now, and there's so many people that are going out on the mountains and walking over, and hopefully they're doing the same and talking and that. So
I think it's a great positive thing, to be honest with you, Bryn. Like, aside from, I guess, the old school weekends were for the sesh.
Yeah, 100%. I used to live for the weekend.
Exactly, yeah, and so did I. And so many lads do. I think you work Monday to Friday, you work in the trades, it's hard graft, and then Friday you kind of feel. And me personally, I used to be in a mindset of if I didn't have a drink at the weekend, I hadn't had a weekend.
Yeah.
But in honesty, man, you feel like shit after. Like, I'm emotional on a hangover anyway.
I'm absolutely right off on a hangover on a Sunday or a Saturday morning. So
it was about a 4-day write-off for me now, mate. It's, the older I get, the worse the hangovers are.
Yeah, I mean, like being in, like you said about being in the trades and the whole drinking aspect, it is quite a big thing. I think most trades are going to the pub after work, aren't they? Really having a couple of pints.
Yeah.
Like back in my old man's day, they were like roofers, and they were going back and having 7 or 8 pints after work some days, like and that.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I think in some
There's such like
social,
a big culture around drinking now, like
yeah, the culture's there, and if you step out of it, you're almost seen as the odd one, aren't you? The outcast.
yeah.
Um, I
You
mean,
know,
how?
I still get sorry, I still get like, are you having a J2O again? It's like, yeah, it's just a bit, it's tastier than a beer, I think, like, and that's or a
So
pint.
have you cut down? You off the beer?
Yeah, so about 18 months ago, I haven't knocked it on the head completely. I just pick and choose my hangovers, so to speak. So, if there's like a big event coming up, I'll save myself for that. I very rarely go to the pub and have a drink on a Friday or of a weekend. And that. I wouldn't say I'm boring now, like, and that I just got other priorities in my life, like, and that I've realised how much money I was spending, and then being in the trades, I was working away quite a lot in Germany and overseas, and then down in London for about 4 or 5 months. And it's the whole drinking after work and that, and it does consume your life a little bit.
It's really easy, isn't it? I've done it myself, mate. I've gone through times of working away, and you kind of get, you do your day's work, and then at the end of the day, there's not really anything else to do, is there? I mean, there is actually. When I think about it now, I think my mindset now would probably be to try and find a hotel with a gym, or join a gym group that was low. You know what I mean? Like one of
Yeah,
them national gym groups. But when I was in the throes of working away, it was kind of like you work away with a few lads, and every evening it's like, right, we'll go for food and a few beers.
Witherspoons, cheap beer.
That's it.
That's
But
the
how
way it
many
is.
times does like a couple of beers turn into 8 or 9?
Yeah, I mean, when we worked in Hamburg, Germany for 8 weeks, it was like it was heavy. Like every day after work, 10 beers minimum, like, and that, and you're doing that for 8 weeks, and it just takes its toll. Yeah, so
I mean, I think it hits you in a few. I mean, it's not good for you physically, but it hits you. Or it hits me emotionally. Like when I'm, like I say, I'm hungover. My head's all over the shop anyway. And like you said, I like that phrase. You pick your hangovers now.
yeah, pick and choose my hangovers.
Yeah. So I mean, like me personally, Sunday I'm off to Dublin for Paddy's Day. Mate, I'm going to be drinking.
Yeah, of
I'm not just
course.
going to be drinking. I'm going to be drunk, and I will be hungover the next day. But hopefully, the experience will be worth it.
Well, I think it's different when you're going out and you're doing it for a special occasion, or you're going away with a partner or something like that. But when you're going out and you're doing it every single weekend, the Fridays, the Saturday, the Sunday, and you wake up on a Monday morning, you're like, oh, I've got to go to work again now, so to speak.
So, out of interest, you personally, what have you replaced that with?
Well, alcohol.
Well, I guess the alcohol and the time more than anything, because to me,
The
like,
gym. I go to the gym more so now. I probably when I was drinking quite a lot. I wasn't probably looking after my personal health so much. I wasn't keeping fit. I'd maybe go to the gym for like 8-9 weeks of the year and then just fall off of it really, but now I do religiously go to the gym 4 or 5 days a week, have a couple of days rest. Obviously we're doing the walking with the lads and that as well. So today I'm going to go to the pub and meet the lads for the Gold Cup, for the races, and I'll have a couple of beers. I'm not against drinking at all, like and that. It's just after some, my life decisions have changed a lot. Is that the right word to say?
yeah,
Yeah, I'll probably say so.
I think some of it comes
My priorities have changed, like, so to speak.
some comes with maturity, doesn't it? I think when you're younger, but a lot of it, I think you get whipped around into doing what everyone's doing, and it kind of takes somebody to suggest something different. Like, I
Yeah,
know when I was, say, in my early 20s, none of my mates were going, do you know what, lads, let's go climb a mountain this weekend.
yeah,
Just wasn't, I don't know whether it was a generational thing. I think maybe society's changed. Look at my son and his friends. I mean, he's 17 soon, and they're very different to what I was.
yeah. You're saying that they don't drink or anything now, do
No,
they?
no. He said, my son said to me just the other day, because we're leaving early Sunday morning. He went, "Oh, I probably won't see you because I'll be out late Saturday night." I was like, "Oh, what are you doing? You got a party or something?" He was like, "No, we're going to the gym." Like, hey, but for some reason, whatever reason, my son on a Saturday night, him and his mates like to go to the gym at like 11 o'clock
Yeah,
and train while the gym's empty. And it's one of them. Like he's on, you like find my phone because people might be listening to this going, "You muggy and in the gym." but he is, because I can track him. So I have looked out of curiosity, to be fair. I'm like, he ain't going to the gym at this time, but he is.
Lo and behold, he's there at midnight.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. I don't
It's
think.
a very good thing.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
Yeah,
at least you know where. At least you know where he is, as opposed to like in some random nightclub and God knows what could be going on. Or
you just don't. Do you know what, mate? It's like you saying that word, nightclub. How many people do you know that actually say, "No, I'm going out clubbing"?
Very rarely. Going on a daytime session, that's about it, right? Really.
Mate, I love. See, that's one of the reasons I love Dublin, is because I fucking hate late nights now. It's the worst for me is lack of sleep, I think, over a hangover, although I know the two combine. One of the reasons I love Dublin so much is because you've been to Dublin.
Yeah, been a few times, worked over there and like been on holiday, so to speak.
So like the atmosphere there in the day is like a night.
Yeah. That's what it's all. It's just built for a day sesh, really. I think.
Exactly, perfect place for a day sesh, and I'm all about day sessions. If I'm having a session at all, I can't even remember the last time I had a heavy drink, because of the balance in like the payoff, as it were. The negative side of it is like quite severe now. So.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? I think they said that a hangover is like it's the equivalent of like withdrawal symptoms. I think it is. It's your body's actually pining for more. That's why when you have a hair of the dog, your body feels better because you've given it what it needs. So it wants alcohol when you're in a hangover.
It's weird though, isn't it? Because when you're younger, you don't seem to like the hangovers don't seem to be there.
You could do like 6-7 days of drinking and still go to Tramps on a Monday in Worcester, and you know what I mean.
Oh man, like back in my heyday, so old I am now. But back in the day, I remember me and the lads, we'd worked out where it was student nights. They used to have like pound a pint. Remember pound a pint?
Yeah.
But we'd worked out. We used to go out like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I think it was Stratford used to have a student night on a Monday.
Oh, what was the place? It was on the Crossroads.
Yes, you know the one.
Was it the Bureau or something?
Yeah, that's the one, mate.
Bureau,
that's good memory. Nobody else going to know what the fuck we're talking about, but there was a pub in Stratford. I don't know about when you went, but they used to do, it was £15 or £20 all you could drink.
Ticket, wasn't it? You used to have to rip it.
Well, when we went, it was £15 or £20 entry, and then all you could drink.
Oh, they used to give us like a ticket with 10 things, and once you'd finish it, they'd give you a new one, and it was like a competition to see who could get how many you get through in a night. Yeah.
Mind you, man, I don't know about when you went, because I'd say you're probably a few years behind when we used to go. But I remember they used to have 2 bars, and it would be packed full of youngsters, because we were all skint and it was students. But they'd put like 1 member of staff on.
Yeah.
So the queue to the bar used to take like an hour to get served. So although it was all you can drink.
So you're only having like 4 drinks anyway over the course of the night.
Preload, having a bottle of vodka on the way over there. And then while you were there all night, you'd be lucky to get half a dozen drinks. But yeah, man.
Fun times.
That's it. It got me all nostalgic now. Mate, let's go back with you. First of all, your trade. So you learned Sparky in the army.
Yeah. So I was an electrician in the army, 5 years, learned my trade, and then had to come out and then re-qual with like civilian qualifications, so to speak, because not all the military qualifications are transferable, so to speak. So I had to like do some retraining, and then when I left the army, it was the whole, I've just moved back into my parents. I'm like 21, 22. I haven't got a full-time job as such.
So you went straight into the army from school?
Straight into the army from school. And then when I left the army, I went straight into full-time employment, because I thought that was like, I didn't really understand self-employment at the time. Because being in the army, you can't live like a sheltered life, so to speak, when you're on camp.
I guess going straight from school into the army, it's almost like staying in that authoritarian complex, isn't it? Where you're told what to do at school, and then you go into the army and you're told what to do. There's not a lot of independence, is there?
No, not really. No, you are very independent, so to speak, when you're in the army. When you are in the army, but I do get what you're trying to say, as in like the whole authority side of things.
Yeah, you're told what to do in terms of your job.
Yeah, pretty much.
So. How was the transition?
It was all right. It wasn't too bad of a transition really for myself, because I'd only been in for 5 years. I think for some of the guys who are 10, 15-year career men like in the army, I think it's hard to transition back onto Civvy Street.
Yeah.
And like I can like spot military people a mile away, and you can just tell by the haircuts and the way they're
Really?
like, yeah, you can tell he's military. And then I've been to like some training centres, and you can tell they're like ex-military staff and that, like, and so yeah.
Okay.
So when I left the army, I was in full-time employment for a bit, and then I didn't go self-employed until start of 2020. But I only went self-employed because I was going to be moving to Australia.
So I know this touches on sort of like your hard times,
Yeah,
doesn't it? So let's start at the beginning of that. So what you just said there, you were going to move to Australia,
yes.
and that was going to be a full-time.
Full-time move, yeah. I was looking to get residency and my citizenship and go sparking over there. And then I'd left at the start of 2020, and I was in the middle of like Asia at the time because I was traveling Asia before I was going to move to Australia, and then COVID come along and the world shut down, and I had to move back in with my parents.
Whereabouts in Asia were you?
I was in Myanmar, which is borders India. It's the old state of Burma.
Okay.
Yeah, the sovereign state of Burma, I think.
And how was the whole COVID thing there? Like, had it broken out while you were there?
So it was the middle of March, I think it was, when I was traveling back, and you're kind of oblivious to it all at first when I was over there. Like my mum's like saying, "Oh, you're going to be coming back," or and you're not really paying attention to what was really going on with the whole COVID thing until you got on a plane to come back to the UK, and then someone's got like a temperature gun on your head, and they come on the aeroplane in like hazmat suits when we touched down in Thailand, and was like pointing like temperature guns in everyone's heads and that, and like, "Oh, you've got to stay or you can come off the plane." Like,
Really?
Yeah.
Fucking man, that sounds like a sci-fi film.
Yeah, it was nuts, like, and then obviously, then that was in Thailand, and then got from Thailand back to the UK, and then the world just shut down.
Yeah. So you're lucky to get back.
Yeah, I was, to be fair. I had two choices. It was either go into Australia or come back to the UK, and I was potentially going to go into Australia with the world shut down.
Well, from what I saw, mate, Australia, like, they locked down hard, didn't they? Didn't
really
they completely
hard.
shut borders for years.
Yeah, and they were like, police were arresting people in their homes and all that, and it was scary times, isn't it, really?
Nobody really knew what was going on, mate, did they? I mean, my personal journey, I guess, through COVID was I didn't have it hard in terms of everything stayed pretty much the same for me, and I worked all the way through because my wife's business is a salon, so she got completely shut down, but that meant I had to make sure I was working.
Yeah.
And the construction industry in the UK, there was no point where we were actually told you're not allowed to work. So I worked all the way through.
Yeah.
Didn't have any time off. It was quite normal for me. There was all the noise and the madness going on, but my own little world was quite normal.
Well, I'd only just gone self-employed, so to come back in the middle of COVID, everything shut down, trying to find work was quite difficult. That was really difficult. It didn't really help. I didn't have a lot of finances. I only had what I saved up to go to Australia with, so that was my pot. The first it wasn't difficult as such, because in first 4 or 5 weeks everyone was off work anyway, wasn't they, really, because they just shut down everything completely, and then after that, that's when it was.
Let's be honest, mate, I think the first shutdown, and when people got put on what's that word? Furlough. I think I'll be right in saying a lot of people loved it, like, in terms of everyone kind of thought, "Oh, we've got an extended holiday here," and
money in the bank for free,
and the weather was good.
Blistering hot.
That was it. The weather was good. Everyone was gardens, barbecues,
wine, suntanning.
Yeah. Being paid to stay at home. But I've spoken to a couple of guests on the podcast where that point was a turning point for drinking.
Yeah.
Because it became like a lot more normalised that actually you can get up in the morning and crack open a bottle of wine before lunchtime.
Yeah, 100%. I was in the garden many afternoons from like 12 onwards, about 11 o'clock, 12 in the morning, and then just sunbathing, drinking wine or whatever, like that for the first few weeks. So,
yeah, I think it was a turning point for a lot of people. And when I think now, it was kind of it was that holiday feeling for me, because I think, say last year I went on holiday with the missus. There were times, first day or two when you're like, like you want to rinse the all-inclusive, and the bar opened at 10 o'clock and you're having like a Mai Tai cocktail at 10:30 in the morning by the pool. But nobody frowns at that on holiday. That's cool on holiday. And I think that holiday feeling spilt over into normal life.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, it hooked them, and they've struggled to break out of it on the back end of it. But your own struggles, mate. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So obviously came back during COVID, world shut down, and then met a girl. The whole fell in love, and then it was going strong, and then the relationship started to like dematerialize. Would you want to say? Would that be the breakdown?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just trying to find the word really. And the relationship started to break down, but there was finances involved. We were going into the winter lockdown.
Yeah.
At this point, so sorry, the summer was okay. The summer lockdown, so to speak, and then I think we came out in was it the June sort of time? We were kind of good.
Yeah.
And everything was fine. And then just before we were going into that winter lockdown, the relationship took like a bit of a bad step, and then just started drinking then heavily at that point, and that's what kind of spiraled me into my headspace of where I was going. Like I said, we were in a winter lockdown. Everything was shutting down once again. The gyms had shut down, so the one lifeline that I did have. Yeah. I think they shut them down. I think it was in the September or the October, like the 19th. I think it's like I think I remember the day. I think it was like October 19th or whatever it was. Okay. And they shut down the gyms, and that's when I just kind of like went inside of myself. Then and that.
Christ, I remember that, mate. When they shut the gyms, that was when like personal weight equipment, the price of it was like a bar of gold.
Yeah, I bought weights and plates and like paid over the odds for it all, and
it's the only time in my life that I ever got into running. Because at the time where the gyms shut down, you wouldn't believe it looking at me now, I was actually training quite well. And I was gutted when they shut the gyms. I thought, I can't stop doing anything. And like everybody, I don't think anyone really knew whether it was going to be a couple of weeks, couple of months, or a fucking year. I think that was the worst of it a lot of the time, is that nobody knew, like, is this going to be a week or a month or a year?
Yeah.
And me personally, I started doing running, started running 5Ks. It's the only time in my life I've ever run, because I hate running. And then my knee blew up. I had to stop doing it.
Yeah. It was pretty hard to do that during the winter months, because obviously it was just crappy weather. But yeah, when they shut the gyms, because I thought to myself, the relationship's gone in a bit of a bad patch. So I just take myself away as such, and go into the gym and use that as my not place of worship, so to speak, but a place to, like, a safe place, so to speak, like, and that. And when they shut them down, it just, like I said, the drinking started, and it kind of got worse from there. Then kind of got lost in my own head.
How bad did it get?
It got to the point of where I just didn't want to be here anymore, like, and that. I was drinking, like, I'd drink a bottle of tequila and wouldn't bat an eyelid at it, like, and that. Yeah. Like on a Friday evening or Saturday, I'd just drink a bottle of tequila. I mean, it's winter, no one's around, like, and that as well.
Were you, at this point, what was your circumstances? Were you living at home?
I was still living at home. Parents, I'd like finished work. I took a full time, because the self-employment, the money still wasn't there, so to speak. I had to go back full-time employment, doing maintenance and facilities work. I was behind a desk again for 8-9 hours of the day, some hours on the tools, just slowly lost my own mind, really, just sitting in an office on my own in my own thoughts,
being in your own head.
Yeah, and just slowly ate away at myself for a good 2 months or something. I think it was. Yeah, I think it was from the January. Because in the December they brought in that the COVID, was it like the district thing where you couldn't travel between certain areas and all that rubbish?
There was so much crazy stuff that went on back then. It almost feels like it was a different reality now.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? But there was like some district things, and you couldn't move, and then like and so just you couldn't like move between different towns and that, and then
It was like
just
one town was locked down, the next one wasn't. And
it just didn't make no sense, and like you couldn't like go and really see or visit anyone, and just went to work, come back from work, in bedroom, locked myself in, so to speak, and that was it.
I must admit, mate, again, I was quite lucky in that time because for the purpose of entertainment, Bryn, to cover myself legally here, there might have been a situation where some very close friends of ours had a large property and did a renovation job on their house and turned it into a bit of a party venue. So there might have been, in theory, occasions when there were actually quite a lot of socialising going on for me.
Yeah, I mean, we did that, and I think everyone bent the rules to suit themselves to some degree. I mean, look at the government; they did it, didn't they? Like Partygate scandal and all that.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, we did it in the summer. We had barbecues, so I think everyone does what they need to do. It was just that winter. It was just the winter lockdown more than anything. The summer, because it's nice weather, and I think it was probably a bit more bearable, so to speak. And then the whole
seasonal something disorder, isn't it?
Anxiety disorder.
Yeah, SAD. I don't know what the it stands for.
That is a real thing, you know.
Completely agree, mate. Yeah, I completely agree. I saw an article or something on the news the other day, and it mentioned the daylight savings at the end of the month.
Yeah.
And immediately inside, I went, lighter evenings, barbecues, garden.
Early, lighter mornings and that as well. It's easy.
Yeah, it definitely makes a difference. And I think, again, within the trades, I mean, me personally, I've moved my business into interior only. So I'm conscious now that actually, I need to make sure I'm getting out in the sunlight.
Yeah.
There's a lot of research proven when it comes to things like depression that it plays a big part.
Well, we're human beings. We're not meant to be cooped up in boxes or, in a box with a roof on all day long. We're meant to be outside getting, vitamin D and that into the air and fresh air, And
it's one of the other things about the walking and talking, isn't it? You're getting all of that.
Yeah.
And you can't. And it's like going to the gym, though, Bryn, isn't it? I've never, like everybody, I've struggled to get myself through the doors, but I've never walked out the gym thinking, I wish I hadn't done that.
Yeah.
You always come out feeling good. You get those natural endorphins and that lot running. And it's just such a big part. I mean, when you were at that point and what you said there was that you didn't want to be here anymore, had you actually considered not being here anymore?
Yeah, I had. When was it? Was it around the April, May? Yeah, so obviously we went into the winter lockdown, January, just everything was locked down, and that's where I probably got worse in my head, the January and the February time. I think it was like 2022, so to speak. No, that's not right. No, 2021, sorry. 2021, I got my dates wrong, sorry. So in the January and the February, just kind of like withdrew into myself even more, and I moved out of my parents, got my own place for a bit, and that didn't really help me because
you were properly on your own.
Yeah, properly on my own then. And I think I remember going around to my mum's, and I was having a chat with my mum, and as I was leaving, she's like started crying, and she was like, "What's wrong?" I was like, "What's wrong?" And she's like, "I just don't know if you're going to come back through that door again next time," because that's the point of where I was in my head, and that because I just it's not a good place to go to, really.
Your mum had picked up on that.
Yeah, my mum had picked up on it, but there's nothing she could do about it. I just said I turned around to her and I was just like, "I'm sorry, Lord, but it's me against me. It's me against my head, and no one can help you, so to speak. You can only try and help yourself. I think you got for me personally, like there is talk. You can talk. But it's in your head. I think if you want it, if you want to get yourself out of that situation, you'll get yourself out of it.
Yeah.
And I slowly realised that you're not the thoughts inside your head either. Like that.
That's a big statement, mate.
You're not.
Yeah.
I'm not. I read and listen to a lot, and your mind is completely separate to your body and your brain, like, and that they're completely two separate entities. And
have you ever read or listened to the book? Have you ever heard of Eckhart Tolle?
No.
Look up, mate. I'll give you the details after this, or anyone listening. There's a book by Eckhart Tolle. His name is. It's called The Power of Now. If you listen to books or read books, mate, read it.
Yeah.
It's really powerful.
Is that the blue one? The blue book. I think I've got it. I've just
got
not
the
read it.
audio
I've
on
not
it,
read it
mate.
yet. I've got the book.
Yeah, I struggle for time. I used to love reading books, but I struggle for time now. So what I tend to do is I listen to books while I'm working. And if I'm honest, it's not the easiest book to listen to initially because it's quite like spiritual and
Yeah.
there's these little dings in it. If you've listened to it, you'll know exactly what I'm on about. But what the message in that book is profound. Like I would go as far as saying it completely changed my mindset. I'll give you the details after the episode, but it's well worth listening. But that whole "you are not your thoughts, your mind and yourself" are two different things.
Yeah, what you think about yourself isn't necessarily true, like, and that I think
it's powerful, Matt, and the mind is dangerous.
So many people. I think I listened to something the other day, and it said about your mind is separate, and your mind is it can be very dangerous because you can start to believe you can start to believe what you're thinking, like, and that, and then the mind can just, I think it can just turn a switch, and then that just becomes your reality then, so to speak.
Do you know what it was? And I'm probably going to completely butcher this trying to explain it, but the message that really resonated with me when I listened to that book was one of the things he said was that in order to hate yourself, you must be two things. So you are hating yourself, which means that there must be two objects there. There is your mind hating or giving you the thought that you hate yourself. Because in order to hate yourself, there must be two perspectives. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense. Yeah.
So it then gives you the perspective of, well, hold on, there's two elements here then. So for the part of me to be thinking negatively about myself, there's two elements there.
Yeah.
And then it brought a whole new meaning to the phrase "be at one," right? Because everyone's heard that phrase, yeah? Be at one with yourself, or be at one. And you kind of think of Buddhism and you think of people sat there going, but what it actually means is bring that to, like, quieten the mind, quieten the negative thoughts, and just be at one in the moment, in the present moment. And it doesn't leave any, just exist in your, like, I guess, your prime function to survive, breathe, live, exercise, whatever, exist in the moment. And that's the
exist in the physical, so to speak. Instead of like what you can't control your mind. You can control your physical attributes.
It's fascinating when you break it down, at risk of going on a tangent here, but everybody's prime existence is like, we're designed to survive. Yeah. So everything the human body does should be geared up on an evolutional standpoint in order to survive, to live and reproduce.
Yeah, well, your body heals itself naturally, and
there we go. So, like, your prime objective, as it were, to speak in like robotic terms, is to survive and reproduce. So why would our own mind counter that and then try and do stuff that ultimately can get to the point of self-destruction?
Mm-hmm.
It's a fascinating subject. It's why I started studying psychology.
Yeah,
because of that sort of like the separation. And what you said there is perfectly, and I want to re-emphasize that you are not your thoughts. So if you're listening to this now and you're in a bit of a dark place yourself, just go back over what I've just said there. If you are thinking negatively about yourself, that's two separate entities, almost two separate perspectives.
Yeah.
In order to inwardly reflect upon yourself, there must be two. Yeah,
I agree.
I've probably explained that horrendously, but it resonated with me when I read that book, and it definitely changed my mindset.
Yeah, you're definitely not the thoughts you have about yourself, and
yeah. I mean, pulling it back to you then, Bryn. So you got to that stage, and at that point, potentially your lowest. What was the turning point? Like, what pulled you back out of it? Because you're obviously in a good place now.
Yeah, I'm a 10 times better place from what I was a few years back. Not to use it as, it's not an excuse, not the excuse. Not to use it as the overall reason, but when I was close to do what I wanted to do to myself, Kurt ended up. It was the bank holiday weekend, and Kurt had done it to himself. And
so this is one of the lads that Bryn is doing the climb in memory of. Sadly took his own life.
I was mates with Kurt. I'm mates with Kurt. Was mates with Kurt. Not like best mates, like some of the other lads.
Yeah.
But I think with something like that happening in such a small friendship group, so
Same
to speak,
social circle.
same social circle, you know, it was like a massive slap in my face, and it's sad that, and it's sad, it's horrific, however you want to put it, but it happens occur, and it took something like that to try and to pull myself back, but it was you know.
Do you think? This is probably a little bit of a raw thing to ask, but do you think that potentially that gave you the perspective of, because one of your friends had done that and took their own life, that you were then actually able to see the effect?
Yeah,
that
I
that
saw
had?
I saw what it had done to everyone. Like,
That's what I was getting at. Yeah.
and I as soon when the news broke about Kurt, I didn't think. I thought about my mum, like, and that, and I thought about you know, I did think about like Kurt's parents and that, and you know, and it's just tragic, isn't it? Really,
It is. It's horrendously tragic, mate.
you don't know how something's going to affect you, really. And then, like, I think it was during the World Cup. The World Cup was on, or was it the Euros? Or,
Yeah.
and you know, we were in the pub trying to watch the football a couple of weeks later, and then it's just non-existent, really. I just couldn't.
Puts everything in context, doesn't it?
It does.
The one overwhelming thing, because I've spoken to a few guests that have come on the podcast who have been at that stage, and everyone has kind of said the same thing, which is that when you're at that position, you just don't think that way. I think by the sounds of what happened to you, you had that like snap moment where it was like, actually, now I've got that perspective to look, and thankfully that changed your course of action.
Yeah, like when 100%, you know, I was probably days away myself from before Kurt, you know, until Kurt did what he did to himself, like, and that. So I don't know the full ins and outs of why, and it's not my place to pry about that. But
it's a scary thought, though, Bryn. The fact that within your social circle, I mean, if you nearly were there yourself, and then unfortunately there's two lads that have gone that far. It's a scary thought that within one social circle,
there's that amount of people.
Yeah.
When you don't know who else there could be potentially,
Yeah.
and you know, I've got friends who've had their own addictions and their own issues, and have been there as well in their headspace as some of the older lads that I know, like, and that. So
I think, to be honest, mate, and all credit to you for coming on the podcast and opening up, because what it does do is it lets other people know that you've been there and that so many people have been there, because there's probably uncountable amounts of men that are out there today having nearly took that step and not told a soul, and that nobody knows. And although that's a very personal journey, and I certainly don't expect everybody to come on a podcast and air their life, I do think that if more people were open in speaking about it, it would normalise it a bit more, break down the stigma.
Yeah, 100%. I think the reason why I reached out to yourself is because, you know, you say like I'm 6'8" lad, like, and I look after myself, but it just goes to prove that it doesn't matter how big you are or what, you know, it can come and get anyone at any time, mate, so to speak.
I'll be honest here, mate. You're like prime alpha male. You're a big lad. You're in good shape. Rugby lad, popular lad, social circles. You know, you do all the typical lad sort of culture stuff.
Yeah, so to speak.
So yeah, for you to then come out and say, well, actually, I got to this point, and I think it's a real valuable point to make, is that you can be fine this year, but something can happen. So your trigger point was the breakdown of your relationship combined with
finances
and the pressures of work.
Yeah.
But that can happen to anyone. You know, a lot of us, we're not in control of our relationships entirely, because they're always two people.
There are two people trying to do a dance together, so to speak, and figure things out. No.
Yeah, and you're not always in control. So it's, to anyone that might consider judging somebody for having those thoughts, you know, you can't judge anything till you've been there.
Yeah.
You know, and as I said, it can happen to any one of us. And mental health is not something that only a few people suffer with. Mental health is something that everybody has. Every single living person has mental health. The only difference is whether it's good or bad. And there's a couple of people that have come on the podcast before you have come up with some cracking analogies. Joe Baker came on and he talked about mental health in terms of a bank balance analogy. I don't know if you heard
Cash
it.
in, cash out.
Yep, cash in, cash out. So check that episode out. And James Reeve, who was the very first guest, came on and gave the analogy of mental health being like a video game, like Tekken. You know, you start with a full bar, you take a few knocks, it goes down, you eat a banana or whatever in the game, and it goes back up.
Yeah.
Everybody has that mental health bar, as it were. And if you get knocked enough, you're gonna struggle.
Yeah,
Anyone.
100%.
You know, so we're all vulnerable to it, and I think it's really important to try and get people to be a little bit more open, like you have today, and just discuss it, because it is so tragic when people don't discuss it and get to the point where they can't turn back.
Yeah, there's no road back then, isn't there, really?
No, it's not, and you know, obviously,
I think, like, did I mention before? Was it trying to think your way out of mental health is trying to sniff you out of a cocaine addiction, like, and that, so to speak. So I think everyone's just like treat themselves a bit nicer, look after your bodies a bit more, be careful what you're putting in your bodies, so to speak, because that can have an effect on what you're doing, whether it's, you know, heavy alcohol consumption, or, you know, if you're using drugs and that, so to speak, you know, each to their own. But
you have got to take some responsibility, haven't you?
Yeah, of course. You know, it's what food you're putting in. You know, if you consume too much alcohol, are you getting a bag in every night or every weekend and that? Like, do you know what I mean? So just people need to be a bit more mindful that it's what you do to yourself physically as well is going to impact you mentally as well. Like
100%. Yeah, what you said there about, you know, trying to think yourself out of a mental health condition is a good analogy. And I guess the reverse of that would be, you know, if you were to break your arm today, you wouldn't try and fix it yourself. Well, unless you're fucking Bear Grylls, but you wouldn't try and fix it yourself. You'd go to the doctor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Same as your mental health. If you're struggling and you feel like something is not right, seek the help of somebody.
Yeah.
You know, whether that's a volunteer organisation, there's a load out there. If you're in construction right now, there's a Lighthouse Club, there's Samaritans, 116 123. There's charities like Mind that Bryn is raising money for on his expedition, as it were, the Three Peaks. Some great charities out there that can, you know, they can help, they can point you in the right direction. And that can be, that little phone call can make all the difference. Not just to you, but to your family, to your friends, to anyone that's struggling, you know?
Yeah,
so,
agreed.
Is there anything else that you wanted to cover, mate, that we haven't covered?
No, I think that's pretty cool, to be fair. Like, you know,
I think it's been good, mate.
Good. Enjoyed it.
So, at this point, thank you very much for coming in and recording.
Thank you very much for having me.
Again, wish you and all the lads doing your Three Peaks Challenge, mate, all the best luck in the world. I might ring you on the day that I'm doing Ben Nevis for some inspiration.
Please do say, please send me videos or.
Well, we're going to try and publish. There's a couple of the lads that are like.
How many of you doing it?
20.
Nice.
So I think I might be wrong here. So I think it's 20 lads and 4 guides. So 1 guide per group of 5.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's 20 of us doing it.
And are they all from up and down the country, are they?
Everywhere, mate.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's been organised by a group called TFT, who are like Forex traders. But their TFT stands for Tradesmen to Forex Traders.
Yeah.
So they're all lads that used to be in the trades that have now like started doing Forex trading. Some of them are off the tools now. Some of them are just supplementing their income. Run by the lad who runs it. It's a great lad. He's come on the podcast for a previous episode, Sean Mapp. Lovely, genuine bloke. Forex trading, it's not for everyone. I don't endorse it or not endorse it, because you can help yourself and you can also lose money. So, complete honesty there. But they're big on mental health, that group, and they have organised and funded this whole expedition of Ben Nevis, and then they've reached out to a few people, social media-y types. They heard that I was doing the podcast, wanted me to come along and represent the podcast. Just to give a mention as well, On the Tools are also supporting me to do the climb, giving me a flag to take up and raise, as it were. I'll hang it off the door of the new Ben Nevis pub.
That's it.
That's it. Like when the football teams go on tour. And
all the flags on the ceilings.
That's it. So, hopefully I'll be hoisting the flag. But yeah, looking forward to it, man. I'll say it's not a patch on what you lads are doing. It's going to be a challenge for me, but what you lot are doing is next level. So
It's going to be hard. I think the hardest part is going to be the stopping and the driving aspects. I
Yeah.
mean, we've got lads driving the minibuses for us, but I think we've got 2 minibuses, so to have like 6 or 7 lads in each one, and we got no really chance to lie down or stretch or do anything. I think that's going to be the
massive respect, mate, honestly. And the fact that there's 15, 14 of you doing it for the same reasons that we're doing it to raise mental health awareness in construction. You guys are doing it to raise mental health awareness, but I know a lot of those lads are out of a construction background.
Yeah, I think the majority of our group is all construction.
So you've got, I mean, just look there, you've got 35 blokes within the space of 2 weeks who all feel the need to push this message.
Yeah, so that's all the message you need, really.
Absolutely. Bryn, before we wrap up, mate, where can people find you on socials?
Find me at BSW Electrical Services on Instagram. That's all we're on at the moment. There's not a lot of posts at the moment. A bit too busy to be doing socials all the time.
Yeah, you're not big on social media, are you, mate?
I am, and I'm not. I've kind of like taken a step back from using my phone too much in that at the moment.
Another big thing for mental health.
Yeah.
I'll put the link to Bryn's social media again in the item description below the episode. And thank you to everybody for listening, as per usual. Actually, before I forget, big thank you to Creative Branding Workwear for supplying the new guest merch, which Bryn has got already, haven't you?
Yeah, I have indeed, yeah.
So big thanks to those guys for supplying all the guest merch. And as per usual, if you've enjoyed the episode, please give it a like, a share, a follow. And the other thing that I'm asking people to do at the moment is please, if you can, give the podcast a review. Sounds a bit beggy. I hate asking for this stuff, to be honest. But with the way that these podcasts work and the algorithms, the more positive reviews you get, and the more people that the podcast gets suggested to. The message that I'm trying to promote is obviously to spread the message of mental health to as many people as possible, and that one of these episodes might connect and resonate with the right set of ears and make a difference. So all you can do to help me with that mission, as it were, is just leave a review, please. Thank you. And thanks for listening.